Want to save time, money, and your sanity while planning your wedding? Subscribe to Wedding Planning Podcast Premium on Apple Podcasts for early ad-free access to all weekly episodes, plus an exclusive bonus series that outlines exactly how to use ChatGPT to your advantage with dedicated meetings for customizing your budget, finding the perfect venue, hiring your vendors, and so much more. Save hours of time, avoid tons of wedding overwhelm, and make confident decisions faster. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts and start planning with clarity. Enjoy the show. Bachelor party, bachelorette party, stags, hens. There are lots of names for this last hurrah, but in my eyes, the central purpose of this celebration and the central purpose of our show today is to maximize this time spent together letting loose with your loved ones and really just to share a fun experience together. So whatever label you give it, this is just an opportunity, one more special opportunity to spend time with the people you love most. Now, for some of us, that might mean a low-key dinner and some drinks, and maybe, if we're going to get crazy, some dancing at a local club. And for others, it may mean a full-blown long weekend in Cabo San Lucas or Dominican Republic or Jamaica, or just a really big fun bash with all of your girlfriends. The size and the scale of your bachelorette party can be turned up or turned down to your liking. But again, your primary intention should just be to spend time and have fun. Maybe share a new experience or two with your closest family and friends. Before we dive deep into the logistics and stuff, I will say really quickly, I have done listener surveys in the past, and over 95% of you listening, or at least 95% of you who took the listener survey, identify as female, as do I. So for the sake of sharing my own firsthand experiences with you for today's show, we're going to refer to a bride who is throwing a bachelorette party. Now, of course, I know and I respect that those titles and underlying assumed pronouns do not apply to every situation, but for the sake of today's show, that's the language I'm going to be using. And I'll also say that this is a perfect episode to share with your maid of honor, with your best friend, with your cousins, whoever is going to be planning and or helping you plan your bachelorette party. This is a great episode to pass on along to them, especially at the end of the show. I'm going to share some information for the attendees. And also a good time to add one more little disclaimer. You may not be planning every last detail of this celebration, but you do have every right on earth to be 100% comfortable with the format of whatever goes down at your bachelorette party. So be sure to keep communication open. And if there are things that you absolutely do not want to wear, drink out of, or have happen, then be sure to communicate that with whoever is planning. So let's jump into the planning guidelines that I have to share with you. And a lot of your questions are kind of baked into these topic checkpoints as we go through them. Who plans the bachelorette party? What does etiquette say? So anyone can plan this celebration, much like everything else about planning your wedding and engagement and all of that. You get to choose how you're most comfortable. So it can be the bride who plans it. It can be the maid of honor and the bridesmaids who plan it. It can be a combination of all of those people. You might want to have a ton of say in exactly what happens and exactly how it's planned, and that's totally fine. My only piece of advice here would be, first of all, you know your friends and your family best. You know your situation best. I would recommend that you keep the planning committee, so to speak, on the small side. And that just avoids there being a million different ideas and opinions and people throwing in their 2 cents. In my life experience, overall, things are planned most seamlessly when there are fewer people involved. Now, of course, you'll want to and you'll need to get input from others on things like scheduling and budget and more of the logistics, and we'll go into that as we continue through today's show. Now, it can and will depend on your relationships and your own circumstances, but I would also say that the big, major centerpiece stuff should at least be run by the person of honor. So in this case, for our conversation, run it by the bride. Unless you, the bride, or if you're a maid of honor listening, unless your bride has specifically said, I do not want to be involved in the planning, I don't care what we do, I want you to plan all of it. Unless that's the case, and it might be, but if it's not, I do suggest that you at least run the big stuff by her to make sure that she signs off and all is good. And next on our list, who gets invited to a bachelorette party? Again, you'll find a standard etiquette answer on this, and it's not going to be my answer. The standard etiquette answer is that your wedding party is invited, and then you can extend out from there, but every person who you invite must absolutely also be invited to the wedding. Now, in today's times and today's circumstances, weddings have evolved a lot since a lot of this etiquette advice was originally conceived, shall we say. And with today's micro weddings and elopements and all of the creative variations on celebrating your marriage that have stemmed from the past few years, I will go out on a limb and say if you want to include people who are technically not going to be invited to your marriage celebration, then do it. Broken record alert, this is your wedding, this is your marriage celebration, and this is your bachelorette party. So if you want to invite coworkers and old college friends and get a big old gang of girlfriends rounded up to celebrate over a weekend, and you are only inviting 20 people to your wedding and a lot of these people won't be there, then so be it. And another common question and common point of curiosity is, what about doing a co-ed party? Again, totally up to you. If that's the way you want to celebrate and that's how you feel most comfortable and that would make this the most fun for you and your partner, then you have all the freedom to create this event to tailor you, to tailor your circumstances and your relationships. There are absolutely no right or wrong answers to any of this stuff. I've been to co-ed bachelorette parties in the past, and they've been a blast. So for lots of couples, that's the natural way to celebrate. For others, not so much. Whatever you prefer, whatever you personally want to have happen, do that. And next up for planning guidelines, the first thing you're going to want to do, closely tied to our last point, is start to make a guest list. So who is going to come is going to largely determine your next steps in choosing a location and a format. So for example, your small wedding party of 4 of your best girlfriends, that lends itself to a long weekend vacation. While on the other hand, inviting 30 of your friends, your coworkers, your old college roommates and dorm mates, and all of your family members, that is likely going to steer the format of this celebration in another direction. Once you have your guest list, you can move on to choosing a location and getting it on the calendar. And speaking of calendar, as for when your bachelorette party, quote, should take place, again, that's totally up to you and your schedules. There's no right or wrong there. It can be hard enough. I know personally, firsthand, it can be really friggin' hard to get together with friends for just a simple happy hour. And our calendars fill up so quickly, especially for you with all the other wedding events that are taking place in the coming months. You can schedule this bachelorette party for any time, but I would recommend start planning it early on so that you leave plenty of space so that you can get everyone's schedules synced up for a night or a weekend or a long weekend that works for everyone. it is possible to be last minute about going out for dinner and drinks, but it's pretty hard to be last minute about going on an international long weekend getaway to an all-inclusive in the Caribbean. That's going to be challenging. As you're looking at the calendar and looking at potential times, consider long weekends, holiday weekends. If you're looking to do a getaway and save people needing to take an extra day off from work, that's the plus. The con is also to consider that long weekends might be more expensive times to travel and book hotels and accommodations. And that leads us seamlessly into considering the budget. Not only your own personal budget, but also those who will be invited and participating. And as often happens in friend groups, maybe people have different financial circumstances. That's very common. And as a rule of thumb, you need to accommodate the brokest person in the group, or you need to be willing to cover their costs. So it's not fair to plan an extravagant, all-out long weekend if you know the maid of honor can't afford $600 to pitch in for the hotel and dinner. It needs to suit everyone's budget. And if it doesn't, again, you all need to be willing to pitch in and cover for them. All right. So be open and honest and, go in eyes wide open to the budget part. I know we've flown through a bunch of stuff in just a few minutes. And I also know that it can be easier said than done, but your next step is to book it. Put it on the calendar, put it in pen, book it, send out invitations. And I'll say before we break for a quick break, I always love maximizing time spent together. So when I'm hanging out with my friends, I want to hang out for as long as possible. So in this case, for our conversation today about bachelorette parties, I would say even if you do plan on going out locally for just a night of drinks and dinner and dancing, it would still be fun to book a hotel suite to have an after party spot, or even just have a crash pad where you can all go chill that night and head out to brunch the next morning. And we're going to talk much more about some sample itineraries and formats coming up after a quick break. Okay, we're back, and now this part is going to be really fun. I'm going to share 2 totally different sample bachelorette parties and some of my takeaways for each of them. And as we kind of go into the first sample bachelorette party, and this is based on my firsthand personal experience, I'm going to share the option for having an all-inclusive long weekend getaway to Mexico or the Caribbean or any other all-inclusive spot that's easy access for you based on your location. Cabo. I love Cabo San Lucas so much. I live in San Diego, so this is admittedly a very short, very, very easy travel destination for me and for some of my closest friends who still live here. Now, obviously, this was an international bachelorette party, which posed an additional layer of logistics. So for the logistics of this bachelorette party, we were working with 6 total girls. 3 of us live here in San Diego. 1 lives in Portland, Maine. And then 2 were in Puerto Rico. So if you visualize a map of the United States right now, you're talking about a triangle that literally extends to the furthest points possible. So Cabo was kind of an agreed upon destination. It wasn't necessarily a midpoint, but we did all agree that it was close enough and easy enough for everyone. And I think the first challenge we had was trying to juggle. The 3 of us from San Diego flew together. That was fine. But then juggling our itinerary with the Portland, Maine and the Puerto Rico itineraries so that we all got there within the ballpark of the same time, that was a little bit challenging. And the way we kind of managed that was that we planned 3 full days and 3 full nights to be together, 100% together. But that meant that we needed 2 full travel days on either end of our 3 uninterrupted days together. So the Portland, Maine and the Puerto Rico gals, they had a really long travel day. The San Diego girls were really spoiled with like a 2-hour flight. Sorry, you guys. But again, it was really important to us that we weren't planning a 3-day trip and then having 2 of the 3 days kind of eaten up by people coming and going because the flight patterns were so different. My next point here to share, and I mentioned it a couple minutes ago, but I can't say it enough, all-inclusive format for this bachelorette party is such a huge win. It makes all of the traveling, the going out to eat, the activities, it just makes it so easy. You're never having to split the check. You're not worrying about the cost of literally anything. Like one girl wants to go out to brunch at a super expensive restaurant and the other 3 girls are like, nah, that's a little bit out of our budget. You don't need to worry about any of that. Everyone pays the same amount up front, and then there's literally no more talk about money for the entire trip. That to me is a huge, huge plus. And again, it's not only the food and the drinks, the entertainment itself is built in. We had dancing in this little club every single night, which was super fun because everyone there, for the most part, we're all kind of there for the same reason, just to let loose and have fun. And we did. They also had a beautiful spa right there on site. And of course, the spa services were not included. We did do them. They were amazing. So that was the only thing we paid for, aside of leaving tips for servers. That was the only extra cost that we paid for the entire trip. And then beyond that, we had pools, we had hot tubs, we had the beach, we had anything we wanted to eat or drink at literally any time, all day and all night. I mean, seriously, it was a dream vacation. What's not to love? When we get into further logistics, the cost of this vacation, and again, we were there for technically for 5 days, 4 nights. Some of us spent a little longer at the resort than others just because of the travel and the time that it took some. The cost was about $1,500 per girl. Now, I know that that is a big investment, no doubt there, but I will say that we really, really, really splurged on the resort that we stayed at. We also upgraded to a premium room. We had premium access to top shelf drinks, a private lounge area. And then again, some of us were there for nearly 5 days. So that's what $1,500 looked like. That to me is like an upper end of what you would need to spend. We could have done this closer to probably the $800 range and still had an amazing time. So there's a little flexibility in what the cost of that would look like. It was seriously the trip of a lifetime. The 6 of us will never, ever forget how much fun we had down there, and just spending all of that time together with no distractions. No kids were there, obviously, no boyfriends, no husbands, just 6 girls hanging out for 3 days. It was awesome. Okay, so let's shift gears into a very different looking bachelorette party. And this is also a very popular format. So you can consider doing one of 2 things. I'm going to start at the second option. So let's think about doing a staycation somewhere local and doing a hotel for 1 or 2 nights, dinner, go out and dance and drink, do a brunch, maybe hit the spa. This option is, not surprisingly, much more affordable than our all-inclusive scenario, and it's also a much lower time commitment, which makes it easier to swing with a big group or in a last-minute type situation. Do you have to spend the night anywhere other than your cozy bed at home? Of course not. I just like the opportunity that the hotel, the staycation gives you to spend a few more hours together and maybe extend the celebration a little bit. But if that's not for you, that's totally fine. So choose your favorite restaurant, your favorite lounge to have drinks, your favorite dancing spot, and mix them all together in a night of fun. Get a hotel so that you guys can crash afterwards. Maybe extend the celebration into the next day with brunch, go to the spa, or just hang out together. I've been to more bachelorette parties that look like that than I can even count, and they've all been amazing. To wrap up today's show, I have some additional miscellaneous questions. And again, I said at the beginning, but this episode overall would be a great one to share with your maid of honor, your wedding party members, and anyone else who's helping you plan. So a few questions came in about gifts. And I'll say to open this part of the discussion that bachelorette party gifts are totally optional. For my long weekend celebrators, a form of gift that I love is to offer to sponsor one aspect of the party or the celebration. So, for example, from my personal experience, if you are renting a home in Palm Springs for a little bachelorette party weekend, you could offer to sponsor a coffee bar for everyone invited. And then you are 100% in charge of making a really cool little coffee bar, biscotti, syrups, different kinds of coffee, different kinds of tea, hot chocolate. That's a fun gift for everyone. It's useful, it's consumable, all the things, checks all the boxes. Other ideas for like sponsoring an aspect of the party would be a s'mores celebration kit. You could sponsor canned cocktails for the entire weekend. You could make yourself in charge of a charcuterie spread every night that you're there. You could also do personalized swag. So like bags, hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, whatever it is that you guys are into. And then a few more ideas on a more traditional gift. I always like to consider giving something that's memorable and practical. Memorable and practical. Those are the two filters that I always like to think of when I share a gift with someone. So some ideas here would be personalized jewelry that you can wear for the wedding, monogram wine glasses or champagne flutes that you can use for other wedding celebrations are always fun, a wedding day candle to light while you're getting ready, a makeup gift card will always come in handy, a fun ice bucket that you can use, a selfie camera ring light, and a selfie tripod that you can set up during the bachelorette party, during the rehearsal dinner, while you're getting ready for the wedding. That would be a great gift. A gift card for spa services or nails that the bride can use while she's getting ready for her big day. Lingerie gift card, always a good one. And then as we wrap up today's show, in closing, I'll bring us full circle with this idea, which is brides-to-be, be firm and very, very vocal about your wishes and exactly how you want this celebration to play out. And that includes your boundaries, your non-negotiable items, if it's no body part decorations, no awkward encounters with strangers, no embarrassing hats or accessories. If you don't want them, then make it loud and clear. And if you do want them, that's awesome too. And I hope you guys have a great time. You know you best. Just don't hesitate to openly communicate to everyone who's going to be there exactly what you do and do not want. And with that, thank you so much for being here this week. And we'll meet again next week, same time, same place.